week 3 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few quarterbacks I look to drop this week. The first guy, Trey Lance of the San Francisco 49ers. So Trey Lance, he went down with a bad ankle injury, and he got carted off the field early in that one in week 2 versus the Seattle Seahawks, and he's out for the season, and now Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the man over there. So good thing Jimmy G re-signed to a 1-year deal before they traded him or even cut him in training camp here with the San Francisco 49er team. So a lot of hype coming into the season for Trey Lance, a guy who's good with his legs and he can throw some pellets down the field here. But the first 2 games as a starter, week 1 in Chicago, I know was a wet game in Soldier Field. 164 pass yards in it though, and 13 rush yards for 54 yards. And then in Seattle, he got off to a decent start in the home opener for the 49ers. 30 pass yards and 13 rushing yards, but now out for the season, bad ankle injury. Obviously, redraft leagues, you drop him. Even keeper leagues, I would drop him, because I don't know if Lance would have had that great of a year, to be honest here. Guy looked to run a lot, I thought, early on this season, and he paid the consequences, even though it was obviously an accident and a freak thing. But getting that ankle landed on and breaking it immediately cost him the season. So hopefully Trey Lance comes back next season healthy and 100% to go. But right now, I don't think he's that great of a quarterback, and we didn't see him prove anything yet in the NFL. To keep him in dynasty or keeper leagues and obviously redraft leagues, he's an easy drop this week. Next quarterback is Matt Ryan of the Indianapolis Colts. So Matt Ryan, the first 2 ball games, he hasn't done much for fantasy owners and still owned him 44% of fantasy leagues. So the first 2 games for Ryan, week 1 at Houston, 352 pass yards, a touchdown, and then 12 rushing yards and a fumble loss. And then week 2 at Jacksonville, what a horror show it was. I know he was without Michael Pittman, and he was throwing a lot of balls up for grabs, but to get shut out and lose 24-0 to Jacksonville is no good. And Matt Ryan, 195 yards and 3 intos in that one. Week 3, I know he's got a decent matchup versus the Kansas City Chiefs, a game where they're going to want to throw, and it's the home opener as well here for this Indianapolis Colts team. But after the first 2 performances we've seen from Matt Ryan, he's not a guy I'm confident in. And also, who knows how long Michael Pittman could be out. He got ruled out pretty quickly going into week 2's ball game. So right here with all those elements against him, he's a quarterback I would drop this week. And the third and final quarterback I look to drop this week's Justin Fields of the Chicago Bears. So Fields, he's just too hot and cold, I believe, here for fantasy owners. And so far in the season, he hasn't done much. Week 1 versus San Francisco, I know it was a rainy, wet day over there in Soldier Field. 121 pass yards, 2 touchdowns in it though, and 28 rush yards. And then week 2 at Green Bay, only 70 pass yards within it though, and 20 rush yards with a touchdown. So obviously that rushing touchdown saved his fantasy day a little bit, even though he only finished the day with 8.80 fantasy points in week 2 was Justin Fields. I know week 3's got a decent matchup on paper versus the Houston Texans, but this Texan defense, believe it or not, the first 2 weeks here, they played tough football, and they were in these ball games till the end with the Colts in week 1, and then only 16 points to the Broncos, even though their offense has their own problems. So right here, Justin Fields has a lot of weapons on the offensive side of the ball here. Besides his running backs, there's no one really he could count on. Darnell Mooney's struggling. Cole Kmet, he hasn't done anything. And right now, it's just tough sledding for him. So right now, I would drop him this week. Yeah, he could get things going. He's got a couple decent matchups. Week 4 at the Giants. Week 5 in Minnesota, maybe could do something. But right now, he's more of a headache than anything. And he's a quarterback I would drop with the lack of weapons and just the performances this week. So that's a few quarterbacks I would drop for week 3 of the fantasy football season.